Good morning, good morning. Oh, I've got a cardboard box over there. Let me just get that out of the way. How are you this lovely morning? Well, not only is it autumnal, but it's a bit rainy now. We had an unseasonably hot spell, which is now going into a rainy spell. So it's Monday. No children to take to school today. That'll be tomorrow. How are you? All right. Hope you're well. Just that's it. Get onto the road. So you may have noticed my hair's getting a bit long. I haven't been down the barber's for a while. I've had a variety of challenges over the past few weeks to do with recording, for example. You know, I bought this new graphics card to speed things up. Then I put it in the computer and the computer wouldn't, then I had to take all these leads out of the computer to try and get it in, and then I forgot how to connect them all back up again, and then the USB ports weren't working. So then I took it apart again last week and I found the wire that connects the USB ports together, so I've plugged that back in. And but I bent one of the pins on the connector, so now something's not working. There must be some function that's not working that I don't know about, but I've got the two USB ports on the front of the computer working again, but not the headphones, which have got 3.5mm jacks on them. So now I've had to dig out an old pair of USB headphones because I couldn't do any video editing because I can't do any audio editing. It's a nightmare. So I'm getting there slowly, but honestly, I've said this before, there's 100 things you need to do to get a video up on YouTube. And I'm not just talking about the basic stuff like possibly getting two cameras, looking at your sound setup, remembering to press the on button, doing like clapping your hands together so you can synchronize the sound, learning about normalizing the audio, isolating voice. What else? I mean, it's not, it can be just as easy as sticking on a pair of headphones and sitting in front of your webcam and doing it, but really that's not, for the most part, that's not. Two other things. I've got this, I shelled out 200 quid on the software, the post-production editing software. I shelled out probably over £100 on these two lavalier mics. And they're not working. But I don't, you don't know that they're not working until you've recorded something and they haven't worked. And I don't know why they're not working. I think it's possibly just because they're not charged up. It's very difficult to just keep them in the car and keep them charged. I'll have to just keep them plugged into a USB charger and hope they get charged on the journeys to and from work. So, anyway, I've had a few interesting patients in. Had a chap ring up who, chap very much after made in my own mould. So what's all this about? I made an appointment with you for a checkup and I keep getting invoices. Every day I keep getting an invoice for £78. Now, we don't send out invoices every day. So when someone says every day, they don't mean every day, although I'm sure they would like you to believe them. And they would like you to accept that claim and be on the defensive, because that is obviously excessive. But when he says every day, what he basically means more often than I'd like, you know. And when they say more often than they like, what they mean is too often for me to ignore my course of action in the face of your course of action. In other words, supposing you've got no intention of paying a bill, or no intention of paying it promptly, or every intention of paying it next month on the next monthly cycle. It doesn't help if the person who you owe the money to keeps sending you reminders and saying, when can we expect the money? This bill is overdue. This bill is now 10 days overdue. Blah, 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 blah. You're like, oh, God, you know, these guys are obviously hot on doing it a particular way. They want it done their way. And my designs to do it in a different way are being frustrated by their constant reminders that I'm doing it. No, I'm not doing it in the way that they want it done. And so I think he'd had 2 reminders. And I think they get the invoice straight away, and then they get a reminder about 2 days before they come in, or 3 days or something. And it's quite blunt. It says basically, if you don't pay this invoice, then obviously we'll reallocate the time to someone else. No hard feelings. So he said, what's this about? Well, I've got to pay 78. So, no, me. What I should have said was, yeah, that's it. That's the way things work. But I launch immediately into some sort of grovelling apology about the fact that, yes, that's the way we do things. I'm ever so sorry, but and we've had to do this because in the past that's the way that, you know, and this is what happened to us in the past, and that's why we've adopted the system. Grovel. And basically, he just, having thought about a riposte all the time I was grovelling, he came out with the rather excellent, well, that may be the way you do things, but it's not the way I do things. So you can cancel my appointment. So, and I'm like, and I knew that he'd be, I knew that was the probable outcome. I mean, I was rather hoping that my witty and erudite explanation of our system would win him over. But no, there are a number of people who have not had to pay in advance for dentistry and have no intention of starting now. And that's fine. I'm sure there are still dentists around who will allow people to make appointments and retain the right to cancel at short notice or just simply fail to attend without penalty. And there is a way you can do that. I know. Basically, it involves overbooking and running late all the time and having a waiting room full of old buffers. So, but that's not the way I like to do dentistry. And it's not the way that my patients like to do it either. They are, for the most part, they know they're going to be seen on time within plus or minus 60 seconds. And believe it or not, a lot of them turn up on time plus or minus 2 minutes. Because that's just the modern way of thinking. Now you've got GPS. You know, in the old days when you used to leave at what you guessed would be about the right time to arrive on time, and sometimes you'd be early, but most of the time you'd be 10 or 15 minutes late, wouldn't you? Especially if it's a reasonably long journey. Now everyone's got a GPS and they could be going on a 4-hour journey and it'll still tell them the minute they're going to arrive. So people are far more productive in terms of they waste less time in their day because they're not waiting around. They don't need any buffer time. So they get in their car. They got a 3 o'clock appointment with me, and they get in their car when their GPS tells them that they're going to arrive at the surgery at 5 to 3. And I don't mind. Honestly, I don't mind that. That's fine. Our system means that we have a far greater utilisation of surgery time than we used to have, and would do otherwise, and other people probably do, and so it's a system that we've decided is worth sticking to. However, as I say, it's not for everyone. So we've lost him. We've lost a patient, and he's lost a dentist. So sorry, I've got some empty fuel cans in the back. Always keep a few empty fuel cans and a rubber hose in the back of your car. If you want to cut down on the price of fuel. That's a joke. GDC, that's a joke, okay? Fucking ridiculous wonders. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so that's it. So there you go. I mean, you know, in the Esprit d'Escalier, I probably should have just said to him like, before you hang up, can you just please tell me what you do when you go to a film? When you go to the cinema, do you insist on seeing the film first and then paying on the way out? You know, what do you do when you book a plane ticket? Do you say, no, I'm going to decide on the day whether I want to fly or not, and but if I decide I don't want to fly, I'll give you a ring to cancel, or I might not, I don't know, see how I feel, or I might forget, in which case I don't expect to be charged. But, you know, I don't know. Is it worth it? That's what I want. Is it smacks of, you know when you're dealing with someone and they're obviously a bit of a smart ass, a bit of a clever dicky. I had one once when I was dealing with someone. I think they were trying to sell me something on the phone, and I said, no, I'm really not interested. And I said, I'm sorry to have wasted your time. I don't know why I said that, but I know that's definitely what I said. It was on some phone call. Anyway, I said, I'm sorry to have wasted your time. And the bloke said to me, no, he said, like, it's only your own time you've wasted. And I thought, oh, what a comeback, what a zinger, do you know what I mean? And I thought to him, he's not thought of that on the spot. That has been passed around the telephone call centre as a zinger. You know, when someone wastes your time and apologises, or apologises for wasting your time, to say, look, no, that's not a problem for me. It's your own time you've wasted. I thought, okay, but you can't compete with that. You know, you can't compete in real time with someone who's got a stock of phrases to suit every occasion, and you shouldn't try to. So, and that saying to him, you know, oh, by the way, just before you hang up, can you just tell me whether you go to the cinema? That smacks a bit of a stock phrase. It's sort of a stock thing, isn't it? It does. I mean, in the context of me launching into a very long explanation about why we do things, yeah, I suppose you could pass it off as a genuine question, you know, an honest question about whether he accepts our policy in other areas of his life, like cinema and flights, but just not in dentistry. I mean, that would be useful for me to know. I just want to know, or whether it's just customer practice, he's just not used to it, or whether he wants to retain the right to just simply not turn up and cost us 78 quid. So, which is my experience in the majority of cases. I think people are reluctant to give up the option to not come in. And that's why they don't want to pay, because once they pay, they are committed, aren't they? They're committed to coming in. They insist that they demand that you commit to making an appointment, and yet they don't want to be committed to paying for it. And it's that tension that inequity of approach that has led us to do this. Anyway, we on a completely separate subject, dentures, why not? You know, our technician ran off to join the border force, where he's very happy, I'm sure. And so we started making dentures in-house. It's a bit close. And the one thing that we don't do in-house is process them, finish them, process and polish. But the bits we do in-house are obviously take impressions, make casts, do bite blocks, make special trays, articulate the models, do the bites, order in the teeth, and set up the teeth, and do the tries and retries. Now that's a lot of the various stages of doing it. That all that leads is, after a successful try-in, we then send the articulated try-in, and we do it with we record a bite on our articulator. When we're finished with the denture, we record a bite on the articulator, whether it's in blue mousse or wax or whatever is appropriate. And then we send both the models and the bite off to our lab, private denture lab. And what they do is they, using our bite, they articulate the casts and process the denture and finish it. So now by process it, I mean, they tidy it up, you know. They flame wax it, they scallop the gums, they thin the denture to an appropriate sort of, because we are getting better. We're 10 times better than we were when we started, but obviously we're not up to professional standards. And they then process the denture, remount the casts, check the bite. Not really to check our bite, but to just to make sure that there's been no substantial change in the bite in the processing, and polish them up and send them back. And they come back and they look lovely. And I'm not kidding, they fit like a dream. They fit much better than any denture we had previously. And the other thing is that because we are in control now so much more over the process, we have been able to make dentures that are so much better than we've had to, in the past. We've been able to. And that's one of the major improvements we've made is in tooth selection. And what we do now is we literally do what technicians should be doing anyway, which is to prescribe the teeth. So we've got a mold and a shade guide, and we got a pair of digital calipers, and we very closely measure the spaces that we're putting the teeth into and the length and the width of the teeth, and the 3-to-3 arch and all that. So because it was a high volume, low quality conveyor belt of sort of repeat restorative work, which is what the NHS is, he only used to really have an order of one type of teeth. And those teeth were the sort of the economy range, what you would tend to regard as the cheapest teeth. And he would buy them in a small shade, and he would buy them in one colour, which is B2. And so everybody got the same type of teeth, everyone got old granny teeth. Now, I would say that for 90% of people, those teeth that you ordered were too small. And so we've rather enjoyed choosing the correct teeth, to fit in. And as a result, the aesthetics on our dentures have improved tremendously. And what with the aesthetics improving tremendously and the fit improving tremendously, made a fantastic difference to the outcome. And the patients are very happy. And not only that, we've managed to obviously condense the time taken to make a denture down from the usual 4 to 5 weeks, historically, with a week in between each visit, to much less. Because it literally does not take a week to cast the molds up, make some special trays and some bite blocks. And not only that, the bite blocks are far nicer to use, because after we've cast up the primary impressions, we will make an attempt to articulate them. We've got these little Italian hinge articulators, and when I say hinge, they're hinge adjustable. And you can just spend a minute just putting the cast together in the sort of relationship that you think, even if there's only 3 teeth, then you sort of get an idea of the space in between the jaws and the alignment and the angulation and stuff like that. And then if you make the bite blocks into that space, believe me, they are going to be pretty damn close when you put them in the mouth. We don't have any more of these bite blocks that are horrendously overbuilt, on the basis that if they're overbuilt, they can't be wrong. And it's up to the dentist just to get a hot palette knife on them or whatever to melt it all down to the right size. So dentures, I don't know, on the minus side, to be quite honest with you, the time doing the setups is grinding, when you know that you've got a setup to do, or a couple of setups to do. But you get quicker at doing those as well. You make mistakes, you learn from your mistakes, you realise, how much you're roughly going to need to grind off the teeth. So you try not to grind off too much or too little. You get better at estimating it, and it's a steep learning curve, which in reality means that you learn quickly. You learn very fast towards the beginning, and as you learn more, you learn less quickly because you know a lot of it already. So, but there's a joy in doing a setup in a way, because my entire life I've tried to go by what there's been what I've been told about balanced occlusion and lateral excursion, and a lot of these people, the people I'm making dentures for, part dentures, they honestly wouldn't know if they got a balanced occlusion or not. That's one thing I've learned from doing my own dentures, is that they're a prosthesis. And worrying about the teeth on their prosthesis is not quite akin to worrying about the toes on a false leg, but it's not far off it. Do you know what I mean? All they're interested in is whether it's comfortable, whether it stays in, whether they can eat with it, whether they're going to need to use glue, and whether it looks okay. So I've put some dentures together, which have just been done on the basis of what I think is the best outcome, the best fit. Best fit of the teeth to the space available. And there's not always, in fact, there's quite frequently not the right amount of space available. So I'm making, you know, I'm putting, instead of putting on 2 5s and a 6 in a space, I'm putting on a 6 and a 7. Nobody's going to see. Another dentist might notice, but, you know, if you've got 2 teeth in a gap, you're far better off doing that than having, say, you know, two premolars in a gap and a space. I'm going to come down here, aren't you? All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.